and welcome to BFS Wargaming. My name is Patrick and today we're looking at Warhammer 40k 9th edition core rules, and today's video is on the charge and the fight phase. Okay, two very important phases, lots of damage to be dealt out in the fight phase. So without further ado, we'll take a look at the charge phase. Okay, so the charge phase. So start off with the charge phase, you select a unit, so it's the Necron's turn. And I've selected the Lich Guard, and they are going to charge or attempt to charge the Repulsor, Executioner and the Primaris Marines. Now the Primaris Marines are just under 8 inches away, so it means they would need a 7-inch charge because they have to make the charge, it has to be within an inch. The Repulsor Executioner is just over 4 inches away, so they'll need a 4-inch charge to get to the Repulsor Executioner. Now, a charge roll is done on 2d6 dice, and if you declare multiple targets, you have to make the largest charge range. So for this, it would be the 7-inch charge into the Primaris Marines. I have to get at least a 7+ to be able to charge either one of them. Okay, otherwise, if I don't get a 7+, I've failed both charges. Now, what the Marines can do is they can actually spend 1 command point on a stratagem to Overwatch, which means one of these units, whichever one they choose, they can spend 1 command point and they can shoot as if it was a shooting phase at the Lich Guard, but they have to do it on a ballistic skill of 6. They can only hit on 6s rather than normal 3s, okay, because it's in the Overwatch, in the charge phase, and it's Overwatch. So the Lich Guard, the Primaris Marines have decided they don't want to fire Overwatch, so the Lich Guard are going to roll to their charge. Now they rolled a 3, which means they failed their charge, okay, so they just stand there and they don't do anything, okay, in the charge phase. They don't do anything. They failed their charge. Now you could use a command point. Again, it's another stratagem. We'll go into stratagems in a later video, but you could use it to re-roll those dice. Now the Lich Guard failed, so the Cryptek is going to attempt to charge the Repulsor Executioner. Now he is just under 6 inches away, so he'll need a 5-inch charge. So let's see if we can get a 5. He does with a 9. So he can move up to 9 inches. Okay, so he's going to move all the way around to here. That's his 9-inch movement. And he is now in combat with that Repulsor, in engagement range with that Repulsor Executioner. So we're going to talk about heroic interventions. So these Primaris Marines have just charged into the Lich Guard. Now this character here is a Cryptek, and all characters can perform heroic interventions in the opponent's charge phase. So to perform a heroic intervention, you need to be within 3 inches horizontally and within 5 inches vertically. Now this Cryptek is within 3 inches horizontally of these Primaris Marines, so he can move up to 3 inches towards, has to finish closer to an enemy model. Okay, so he doesn't have to move the full 3 and get into engagement range. He could just move 1 and then stay there. For some reason, maybe it was to get onto an objective or something like that. But so he's going to move in to engagement range, and so he can now, after the charging units are gone, he can fight. Now normally, as a charging unit, you can only fight units that you have targeted in the charge. But if someone performs heroic intervention, this Primaris unit can actually then hit the Cryptek if they wanted. Okay, so now we are going to move on to the fight phase. We've done our charges, so for the purposes of this video, we've put the Cryptek into combat with the Repulsor Executioner, but neither of these units charged this turn. The Primaris have charged into the Lich Guard. So what happens is charging units always go first. Okay, they fight before any other unit. So the Primaris Marines are the only unit that have charged this turn. So that means they get to go first. So what you do before anything else is you get to make a pile-in move. Okay, so this means that you can move up to 3 inches, but you have to end your move closer to the closest enemy model. So for instance, he can move closer by just coming around here and moving a little bit closer, which allows these guys to then get in a little bit more. Okay, so that's their 3-inch pile in as part of the start of the fight phase of them activating. Okay, then they decide where they want to put their attacks. So they all have a base statistic for basically a melee weapon, which is strength 4. Their weapon skill is 3+, so they'll be hitting on 3s. And because they charge, they get 2 attacks base, but because they're Space Marines, they get an extra attack because they charged. So we'll just do, and also the Sergeant, the bald guy, he's a bit special, he gets an extra attack. So he's going to get 4 attacks. So we'll just do the Sergeant into the Lich Guard. It works very similar to the way you do shooting. So they're strength 4, they've got 0 AP on their weapon, and it's 1 damage. Okay, so we'll do it just with the Sergeant. So we'll roll to hit. So he hits on 3s. Oh dear, that is a bad one. We've got 2 1s and a 2. So we got 1 hit. Their toughness 5, his strength 4, so he's going to be wounded on 5s. He didn't wound, unfortunately. And obviously you would just do these guys at the same time because they've all got the same weapon. So you could roll them all at the same time. I won't roll it out, but you understand how it works. It works the same. You know, if a wound did go through, say I rolled a 5, the Lich Guard would then get a save, which their save is 3+. He actually failed the save, so a wound would then go onto the Lich Guard. So let's say that the Primaris Marines got very, very lucky and the Lich Guard were very unlucky. And they killed 4 of the Lich Guard. Massive, huge that is. Now, what happens after this is you then get to do a consolidation move. Okay, so you can consolidate a further 3 inches. Now, for instance, because there's only 1 guy left here, they can consolidate round, and it has to be a consolidation to the closest enemy model. So if you look over here, this Cryptek is 3¼ inches away, and the Lich Guard is only about 1.5 inches away. So it's got plenty of room to move around, and then what they're going to do is surround this Lich Guard. This means that when the Lich Guard comes to their turn, they are not going to be able to move out of combat because they're surrounded. Now, there is a stratagem which you can use, which can help you get out of combat if you have a unit in combat and someone's surrounded like this. Again, we won't go into that now, it'll be in another video. Or, for instance, if this unit had the fly keyword and can fly, they can then just move out of combat and fly over. They wouldn't need to have to stay in combat there. Lich Guards love combat, so they would stay in combat anyway, but it's just an example of that. So, this charging unit is gone. So now the charging unit has gone, how it works is that your opponent then gets to choose who's going to fight first. So once all the charging units are gone, the opponent then chooses who they want to fight with next. So because this unit's already fought and the Lich Guard's in there, there's no point in fighting with the Lich Guard, so they're going to fight with the Cryptek because the Repulsor hasn't fought yet. So the Cryptek's then going to go, he's going to attempt to hit the Repulsor. I'm not going to roll it out because, again, he's probably not going to do anything to that Repulsor, but it's just for example. And then once he's gone, then you get to, the Primaris will get to then choose who they want to fight with, which will be the Repulsor because that's the only other unit on the table, and then the Lich Guard will get to fight after that. So here's an example of talking about engagement range in the fight phase. So the Primaris want to charge the Lich Guard who are on top of these containers. So they're going to have to measure to what would be into engagement range. So to get into engagement range, they would need a 4 to get within an inch. Okay, so you have to be within an inch vertically and within 5 inches horizontally. So roll the dice, and they got a 5. So this allows them all to get in. So they are now in engagement range because they are within an inch vertically and within 5 inches horizontally. Okay, about 4 inches up to the top of them containers. So they are now in engagement range, so they can now fight as if those Lich Guard were on the floor. Also, a thing to note is that if you have a model has multiple weapons, so in close combat, if you have multiple weapons, you have to choose what you want to fight with. So on your on your table, it will have your attacks under the A on your data sheet. And so say if you have 4 attacks, if you have 2 different weapons, you have to choose. You can either use 2 attacks on one weapon, or 2 attacks on another weapon, or you can use 3 attacks on one weapon, 1 attack on the other weapon, or you can put all 4 attacks with one weapon. It's not like the shooting phase. The shooting phase, if you have multiple guns, you can use the guns. You can use both guns at the same time, and you just use their profiles normally. Whereas with melee weapons, then you have to choose which one you want to use, how many attacks you want to use for each weapon, or maybe you just won't use one of the weapons. So it's just worth noting. Okay, so if you have 2 units in combat, when you have units such as these Lich Guard here, where you've got 2 rows, these in the second row can actually fight, because if the front row, if they're within half an inch of a model, and then the model behind is within half an inch of this model, then that means that this model can attack into them. Okay, so if they were over half an inch, so say they were spread out more and they were over half an inch away, then that means that this model wouldn't be able to attack. What this does is stops the third line from being able to attack into those Primaris Marines. I hope you enjoyed that and found that helpful, the look at the charge phase and the fight phase. And we will be bringing you the morale phase and a little talk on some stratagems in the next video. So I hope you enjoyed it. Stay lucky. Thanks. Bye.